Hey, welcome back to another video. And while at it, please make sure that you do the right thing. You subscribe. So in this episode, as you might have seen by the title, we have a twist. So on this channel, those of you who have been following this channel, we hardly talk about such kind of topics. I think our focus is mainly on career development, student development, self-development kind of topics. But hey, we are people after all, aren't we? So these issues affect us. So in this episode, I'm actually talking to Demuso Khalan, who's a quant. And there was an interesting question that actually came from the subscribers asking him about his love life. And we actually had to talk about that. But it actually got me thinking, because on this channel, I actually I speak to a lot of professionals and stuff like that, but I remember speaking to Makhatse Mariba, who's a data scientist, about this sort of topic, but we didn't go deep into it, but we just spoke about it briefly. He was actually telling me about um, how, as a data scientist, he approaches and view relationships. Listen to this.
Why? Because they have historical data. So basically, in order to predict, you need historical data to predict. You need to see what has been happening. You need enough data that shows you this is what has been happening. Now you can predict the future. Yeah.
So history is important.
History is very important. You need historical data to make predictions.
You
can't be predicting 1 month data. Yeah.
I'm playing this silly game in my mind. I can imagine a data scientist like you, when coming to relationships, you want the history of this person, that's the historical data.
To make predictions, is this gonna last?
Yeah, to make predictions, to be like, okay, like how does a historical data looks as far as the relationships are concerned? And I'm sure you work it out nicely to be like, I know, I pass. I don't think this thing is gonna work.
Yeah, and if I'm being honest, from a logical point of view, it actually makes sense to have that historical data about that person, because you're most likely gonna know if somebody, their relationships has been on average lasting for 2 months or 6 months, let's say for a good 3 years, 2 months, 6 months, you just know that most likely you can predict that it's gonna be like that with you as well.
Yeah, I think a lot of relationships need data scientists.
Yeah, they need data scientists.
Very interesting. Yeah. So my question then is this, okay, this is obviously before I get to the question, but this is the theory that I have. Is a theory that I have which might necessarily be not true. It's not tested, but it's just an observation. Perhaps I should just say that this is just an observation. I think that the profession that you are in, or the profession that you end up in, or the course that you have studied, it actually end up having an influence on how you view life and also how you view relationships. So and think about it, how you view relationships and how you think about relationships, and then juxtapose this or link this to the profession that you're doing or the course that you're studying if you're a student. I know for a fact that because I'm a mathematician, so one thing that mathematicians tend to be is that we're very analytic, because we do a lot of analysis, etc. So even when coming to that, I tend to be like very analytic, and it works for me. It really does. So comment in the comment section of this question, like if I've met like engineers, and I remember talking to this lady who's an engineer, and she was explaining to me how she views relationship and how, because engineers have this problem solving, uh, they have a way of breaking down, problems. And it was just amazing. I was like, you know. So I remember one day in class, actually, I was lecturing the students, and we were lecturing them on, I was lecturing them on mathematical induction. Those of you who know mathematical induction. So there was a student in class who, um, I think, just got into a new relationship. So she was just very happy, and she wanted to tell us about the relationship, etc. Because my classes are like, yeah, they are like a chillers of some sort, you know. Mm. We just talk about everything, and then we started actually linking that to mathematical induction. We started actually looking at relationships from a mathematical induction point of view. And this is just my point here to say that your profession actually may make it end up making you look at things in your professional lens or in your profession lens. So we ended up looking at relationships from a mathematical induction point of view. Because if you think about mathematical induction, actually, mathematical induction is sort of a process, um, of proving statements that has to do with natural numbers. So those of you who have done mathematical induction, you know this. So I don't want to get into the semantics of this because other people might not have done this. But basically, you have a statement and you want to prove that the statement is always true for all natural numbers. So what you do is that you prove that the statement is true for n equals to 1, or the initial value in this case. And then thereafter, you prove that the statement is true for some n equals to k being some natural number. And then you assume that that is true for that, for n equals to k. And then after that, you then, with that assumption that the statement is true for n equals to k being some natural number, then we then prove if the statement is true for n equals to k plus 1. If the statement is true for n equals to k plus 1, then it means that the statement is true for all natural numbers. So that's a mathematical induction. So we started looking at relationships from that angle to say, for the relationship to really work, the relationship must hold in day one. Day one being n equals to 1. Maybe we can say day one is the day in which you guys started officially being in the relationship. That day is very much important. That day is foundational. That day is a day that has to put all the structures and everything, like everything must be in place. That day is actually very important. This is mathematical induction, hey? It's not me. I'm just analyzing this from a mathematical induction point of view. So, then after that, we move to assume that the relationship will still hold in some day k. So that is when you make the inductive hypothesis. You assume that the statement is true for n equals to k. So in this case, we were assuming that the relationship will still hold in some day k. So k can be any day. It can be maybe in day 10, in day 100, and stuff like that. If you are in a relationship with someone, and for some reason, they don't think that the relationship will be in existence in some future days to come, hey, is a recipe for disaster. Is a recipe for disaster. Like, can you guys hear mathematical induction preaching on this? Like mathematical induction preaching on this. I'm enjoying this, So we were doing this in class, actually. Hey, if you come to my classes, hey, I don't want to brag. I don't want to brag. But if you come to my classes, geez, geez, you know. So then that is the inductive hypothesis that the relationship must hold in day k. Then I was telling the students that, guys, if you get into a relationship, you need to be very optimistic. That inductive hypothesis is just being optimistic. It's saying that we're going to be in this together and we're going to be in this for the future. If you do not see that kind of future with anybody, and you think that this thing won't last after some days or after a year. I mean, there are people who are like that. There are people who have trust issues. And it's normal to have those things because we're people and then we have experiences, etc. But that actually, it's already teka-tekari, you know? You know, guys, this is mad. This is mad. Don't attack me. I'm just talking about the maths here. So that's the inductive hypothesis. And then if we can assume that the relationship will be true for decade, then we then want to prove that the relationship will be true, will hold for day k plus 1. So if k is 10, then it means that k plus 1 will be 11. So if the relationship can hold for day 10, then if we can prove or maybe show or even force that the relationship holds for day 11, then by mathematical induction, then it means that that relationship will hold perpetually, or it will hold every day. You get what I'm saying? So that's the concept. You assume that the relationship will be true for day k, and then thereafter, then you have to prove if the relationship will be true for day k plus 1. If the relationship can hold for day k plus 1, then it means that the relationship is gonna end. It's not gonna be good. You know. So, but if we can make sure that the relationship is true for day k plus 1, assuming that it was true for day k, then it means that the relationship will hold for all days or in perpetuity. It means that this is a good relationship. It means that this is a relationship that's going to be very long term, probably ending up in marriage and ending up in, what is the word? What is the thing? There's a word after that. It was, yeah, but ending up in marriage and then good after that, like until death do us apart kind of a relationship. So if you think about like a relationship from that point of view, mathematical induction point of view, we were doing this in class, and I was saying to the students then that we realize or what we learn from this mathematical induction process in proving relationships is that it's not about it's about the small moments. It's not about the bigger thing. People approach relationships from like, I want to be happy. I want someone who will make me happy. I want someone whom I can travel the world with. I want someone whom, who'd love me. I want someone who'll care for me, who'll appreciate me and take me for whoever I am. This is the bigger things. This is the bigger scheme of things. But what mathematical induction is teaching us is that actually, for you to get into those bigger things, you focus on the small moments. You focus on today. For you to make sure that your relationship is even alive in like 10 years to come, what matters is today. What are you doing today to nurture it? What are you doing today to make it grow? What are you doing today? And I think that's what we miss a lot in relationships, is that we don't focus on, like, every moment is important by mathematical induction. Every moment in a relationship is important. Every day, one should be waking up to be like, okay, what can I do today to make my relationship work better? It's in the small details. But people don't want to do that because the small details, actually, that's where you do the work. That's where you do the foundation. That's where you actually put in the effort. It's the small little details. And eventually they make this, in a year, in 2 years, because you've been putting the effort daily or in the small moments, then it looks good and it becomes like that sort of thing that people suffer well. But people, what they don't realize is that relationship that you suffer well, like, those people were very intentional about building it. They were very intentional about choosing each other. They were very intentional about committing themselves to this thing. They were very intentional about a lot of things, But these days, yeah, I'm I can say a lot about these things. I don't want to be like that. I just wanted to focus on the maths because that's important. Guys, so that is how, we would look into these things using mathematics. Yeah, we did that in class, and hey, yeah, at least we spoke about, who can imagine that in a mathematics class or in a mathematics lecture, love can be the theme. Anyway, let's hear what Temoso Khalane is a quant, a senior quant at NetBank. Let's hear what he has to say about love and his love life. I don't know, that saying of like you reserve the best for last.
Yeah.
I don't want to say this is the best question, but it's just different. Because if I say it's the best question, then I'm nullifying the other people who sent through their questions because they were also good questions. So the question goes as this: if Mr. Khalane is married, how can he describe his wife and his marriage? Some of the values and principles they hold. If also he has children, what are some of the things he tells his children about life and how to go about always having the best outcomes? And what is the profession of his wife? Quite different. I wasn't expecting this question. I wouldn't have asked this myself, probably.
I would never ask this question. Especially given the context,
Yeah.
I mean,
Don't run away. Don't run away.
so the first one was, am I married? That was the first one.
Yeah.
The answer to that is no. I'm not married yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I do have a partner.
Mm-hmm.
I can describe her, and hopefully that will suffice as describe your wife.
Sure, sure.
I would say she is a wonderful person. She is caring, and she is very considerate and protective. And yeah, I find her to be a very pleasant person to be around. And I think um, from a relationship perspective, I think the important principles that we both try to abide by is kind of applying a realistic approach to the whole paradigm of relationships. I think there's a lot of romanticism that has happened over the last generation. That, the movie always ends at the final hug and kiss, and they walk away into the sunset. They don't really tell you what happens after that, what happens when the honeymoon phase is over, and what happens when you actually have to be with someone and it's the same person for a very long time. It's all about when we meet and the spark. And unfortunately, it just so happens that in real life, you meet someone for the first time, there's a spark. So you believe that that's what will happen and you will sail into the sunset and that's all that happens. But I think we've both learned to apply the principle of being realistic to understand that the relationship is a mechanism by which we can benefit, but it is also kind of a vehicle that needs maintenance, that breaks down, and you need to fix it in order for it to keep running. And that you also need to service so that it breaks down less. So you have to be realistic in understanding the characteristics of your relationship, and that's built by understanding each other's personalities and characters. Then it gives you a way to understand the dynamics and be able to apply certain preventative measures for things going wrong. And when things do go wrong, how do you deal with them? I think, yeah, and then outside of communication and realism, it's just a matter of being considerate and, and, and also having fun. I think in everything that you do, you must have fun, including your job, including your relationship. And yeah, just I think those are the important principles that we try to live by. And I think if we were to have kids one day, we do not have kids. If we were to have kids one day, I think I would encourage um, my kids to um, be honest and courageous and hardworking. I think uh, these days hard work is not spoken of enough. It almost feels implied, but it's not. So I think hard work and honesty, just be an honest human being and apply kindness to other people around you, but also have courage to stand up for yourself. I think those are the things that I would speak or tell my children to live by.
Do you believe in marriage? Since people are asking
In,
about marriage stuff.
or in marriage,
Yeah.
I, I do. I do. I think, especially, especially, I think people end up married in some way, shape, or form anyway, unless they are completely single and prefer to stay that way. I think uh, people will date for a time, and then it's only a matter of time before you are practically married. Even if you're not officially married, but like kind of live together, you have a kid together, and you're raising that kid together, and all of that. I think there is a view that if you can do that, why get married? But I think there's something about marriage that is uh, makes you have a little bit more purpose than you otherwise would. You know that what you're doing has an impact on other people and it's immediate, and you also learn to be responsible. And um, you also have people to share your life with in the immediate. And I mean, what would we be without family? I think there's a normally when you do have an abundance of family and you have parents nagging you, when you have all of these things, you'll forget. You'll even say, I don't want kids. And then there will come a day where, now your family is kind of dwindling away and, God forbid, you're starting to lose people in your life. Then you start to see the value that was there in a person who calls you every now and again to bug you or to check on you or for something. You'll realize that there's a lot of waves in life. There's friends that come and go. There's experiences that come and go. There's troubles, there's happy times, but your family is normally, under normal circumstances, for most people, your family, however big or small, is usually a constant. It's always there. Whether it's your own family, like in the form of your kids, or it's your parents and your uncles and your aunts and all of these people, they're always the constant. They're the people that you can remember being around when you're still a child and still remember being around now. You can't say that about a lot of friends. So especially the people that I think watch this channel, who are young, uh, uh, there is when you're still young, there might be a view that maybe that's not so necessary. It's not very useful. But I think that there's a reason why the family construct, in some way, shape, or form, has stood the test of time. And there is something valuable there that I think we don't recognize when we are still young. But as you grow, you will recognize, you'll begin to realize that it's important. And generally, I think generally, and then anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, but if generally a person who was raised by two parents and the two parents really put in the work to raise that person has a better chance in life than a person who would otherwise not be, or maybe raised by parents that were not putting in that effort. So I think if you've got a marriage and a well-functioning marriage and you want to raise kids, I think that's a good thing. And I think if you've got a partner who you want to share your life with, I don't see why you shouldn't get married and actually do this life thing together, I guess. I do believe in it, in short.
Yeah. I know are you a very religious person? Because yeah, your answers are very grounded in some, deep,
In
I
some
guess.
beliefs, I am a Christian. I believe in God, and my answers are rooted in that, but I try to answer in a general way
General sense.
because, yeah, in a general sense, because I think there's a lot of things that come from the Bible that make a lot of sense, but won't be interpreted or taken by people because they come from the Bible. But if you put them in another way, I think the knowledge that comes from the Bible is still very helpful and applicable to a lot of people's lives in teaching them the way in which they should live. So I think it's important to speak it, and its general principles and ways of life will make your life a little bit better. Because I think for the most part, if you listen and try to understand the guidance of the Bible, it's kind of written in the way that your parent would guide you. The parent would tell you, don't stay out too late because it's not safe at night. In general, a lot of bad things happen at night. They're not saying it to deny you of a good time. They're saying it to save you from something bad that could happen to you. So it's a similar concept. And I think it's just us, as we grow up, starting to be our own parents as well and taking responsibility for certain things. And I think that it's a good idea when you get out into the wilderness, similar to how maybe if you're a first year or you are in varsity, you used to live under the wing of your parents and they used to discipline you and keep you in line. But what keeps you in line when you left? Now you're in varsity, what's supposed to keep you in line? So I find that those guidances and the understanding that there is still someone out there or something out there that's keeping you accountable outside of just your parents makes you grounded and keeps you humble and makes you disciplined and better off in the end.
So, it's quite interesting that you'd say that, because people who are dabbling or who are into this spaces of intelligentsia, whereby they
Mm,
use their intelligence every day in their kind of work.
mm,
Like the kind of work that you do requires a lot of intelligence, which you
yeah.
sometimes think is your intelligence. Like, this is me, I'm smart. It's my intelligence.
Mm,
And now then some people then tend to now just want to apply intelligence in every aspect, and there's certain aspects where human intelligence cease to work, where now
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
sort of need, so this is quite refreshing because someone would be expecting a very intelligent question where you are now being analytical to say, but no, uh, you know, but bringing the faith and the religion to it is quite refreshing coming from someone like you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sometimes there are certain shock events that can happen in your life where you can see that not everything is in your power. You know, you don't have the ability to control it all. And there are certain things that are beyond your understanding, and they will always be beyond your understanding. You cannot hope to understand them at all. You can make conclusions about them and put a stamp to say, this is all I know about this thing, and that's what I'm sticking to. But it doesn't mean that you understand it. It doesn't mean that you know the full width and breadth of that answer. So sometimes it's good to be humble and know that there are certain things that are beyond you.
I'm tempted to ask this to say, I had a conversation some month ago with a very serial entrepreneur on the channel. He's doing very well. He just launched an online sort of. He's in the e-commerce space and he's doing
Yes,
very
I
well.
saw that interview. Yes.
Yeah. So we were talking about this, and he was telling me about how, well, his wife is amazing. He has a very amazing wife who has really supported him in his journey, and he attributes his success on him. So we're just talking about this thing of the importance of having the right partner in your life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it has been a constant theme on the channel as well. I think I also spoke to another Duduz as well. He was also telling me about this. So I'm tempted to ask you this question about praying for the right partner. You know, if it's a principle that you have applied in your journey of or in your journey with your partner.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't think I ever explicitly prayed for the right partner. But also then again, I never really explicitly pray for anything. I go out into the world and I try what I can, and I hope that um, uh, uh, God can see what I'm trying to do, and can see what I will need and will provide. Because I don't think I may be assuming here, but I don't think the birds pray for them. They go out there and they hustle, and hopefully God will meet them halfway. I'm a staunch believer of the scripture that says God knows what you need before you need it. Um, I don't think I have any capacity to know what the right partner looks like for me. But I think when you find one, you see, you thank God for it. You can see that this is the one. Then you're like, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's what I think. Because sometimes this thing of looking for a partner can also be a bit of a rabbit hole. Because you know, you might find yourself moving in different spaces trying to find a partner because you believe it might be the right time for you to find a partner, and you want a partner now, so on. And sometimes it can drive you to lower your expectations of what you think a right partner should be, um, or what you expect from a partner. So sometimes it's best to understand that which I said, that level of humility and the level of courageousness. You need to have the courage to say, this is what I want in a person, because this is what I am. You also, in as much as you proclaim the right that you have a right to a certain partner, you also have a responsibility to be a good person yourself. But must be humble enough to say, I don't know when I'll get this person. I don't know if I'll get this person. Sometimes you might get a person all that you need. Sometimes it's only partial. You can never know. But if you get something which you see that you feel the need to be grateful for, then that is amazing, and you can thank God for it. And that applies not just to a partner, but also like if you find the right job, or if you get into vets and vets is exactly what you wanted, you know, then it's a big thank you to God, because you don't really know what you needed. Maybe what you thought was right is wrong. So that gratitude is important as
Yeah, hey, man. Such deep
well.
knowledge, you know? Yes, yes.
It's your questions. I think your questions are probing questions. They
Yeah.
guide the conversation in a nice way. So that's where that's where it all comes from.